Imagine you're handed the power to control time itself, something more alluring than money, love, or success. Now imagine that power doesn't let you bend time, or pause it, or even savor it. It just lets you drown in it, forever. And now imagine that this is the worst thing that has ever happened to you. Most people hear the word immortality, and they smile. Of course they do. It sounds like winning. It sounds like escape. But there's a reason every civilization that ever dreamed about living forever buried that dream inside a horror story. And almost nobody talks about why. Because the problem with immortality isn't what you think it is. It's not boredom. It's not loneliness, though those come. It's something far more precise, far more disturbing. Something that cuts right through the center of what makes you a person at all. Let's start with something simple. Something almost too obvious to notice. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago. Not metaphorically. Literally. Your cells have replaced themselves. Your opinions have shifted. The things that used to terrify you barely register now. The people you loved, some of them became strangers, and the strangers became everything. You changed. Deeply. Structurally. And you didn't even notice it happening. Now here's where it gets strange. That process, that constant rewriting of who you are, that's not a flaw. That's the mechanism. That's how meaning gets made. You care about things because you can lose them. You love people because time is pressing. You become yourself through the friction of change, loss, and an ending that's always quietly approaching. But what happens when you remove the ending? What happens when the friction disappears? Philosophers have argued about this for centuries, but one idea keeps surfacing quietly in the gaps between the louder conversations. Bernard Williams, a British philosopher, put it this way. He said that immortality wouldn't be a longer version of your life, it would be the destruction of your life. Because a life without an endpoint isn't your life extended, it's something else entirely. Something unrecognizable. And that's terrifying. Think about it. The things that define you, your passions, your relationships, your fears, your ambitions, they all exist inside a particular window of time. They make sense because you're mortal. You choose what to pursue because you can't pursue everything. You choose who to love because you can't love everyone forever. Your identity, the actual structure of who you are, is built on the scarcity of time. Now stretch that window to infinity. Suddenly, there's no reason to choose anything. No reason to commit. No reason to begin. Because beginning implies ending, and nothing ends. You could start learning the piano, and then stop, and then start again in 400 years, and stop again, and it wouldn't matter. Because you have forever. And when you have forever, nothing is urgent. And when nothing is urgent, nothing is real. But this is where it gets disturbing. Because we're not talking about some ancient myth anymore. We're talking about right now. There are laboratories today running experiments on cellular aging. There are billionaires, serious ones, pouring billions into what they openly call the defeat of death. Google started a company called Calico. Its entire stated mission is to solve aging. Brian Johnson, a tech entrepreneur, spends millions every year trying to biologically reverse his own clock. Scientists have extended the lifespan of worms, of mice, of certain primates in ways that were considered impossible 20 years ago. We are closer to this than we have ever been, and almost no one is asking the question that actually matters. Not, can we do it? But what happens to a human being who never dies? Here's something researchers in psychology have quietly noticed. People who are given an extended, indefinite timeline for a decision don't become more thoughtful. They become paralyzed. They become avoidant. They disengage. There's a concept called temporal motivation theory, which essentially says this: the closer a deadline, the more motivated and emotionally engaged a person becomes. Remove the deadline, and engagement collapses. Your entire emotional architecture is deadline-based. Every meaningful thing you've ever felt, the urgency of a first kiss, the grief of a funeral, the terror of a diagnosis, the joy of a birth, all of it runs on the quiet electricity of impermanence. The knowledge, not always conscious, that this moment is borrowed, that it will not return. Take that away, and what are you? But then something strange happened in this line of thinking, and it reframes everything. Researchers studying near-death experiences, not the mystical kind, the neurological kind, found something consistent. People who came genuinely close to dying and returned didn't report that they suddenly wanted more time. They reported something different. They reported that the time they already had suddenly felt vast, suddenly felt weighted with meaning they hadn't noticed before. As if the threat of ending didn't shorten life, it deepened it, which means something unsettling. The thing that makes life feel worth living, the thing that makes a Tuesday afternoon feel precious, or a conversation feel irreplaceable, it doesn't come from having more time. It comes from knowing, somewhere underneath everything, that you don't. This is the horror that nobody puts on the brochure. Immortality doesn't give you more life. It hollows it out. It removes the thing that makes experience feel like experience at all. You'd be walking through the world with no skin, unable to feel the temperature, unable to feel anything land. And here's the part that makes this personal. Really personal. You might think, okay, but I'm not immortal. This doesn't apply to me. But look at what we're already doing. Look at how we live. We numb ourselves to impermanence constantly. We scroll past moments instead of inhabiting them. We defer the conversations that matter. We say, later, next year, when things calm down. We live as though we have forever, and then we're stunned when it runs out. In some sense, psychologically, we've already started practicing immortality, and we're already experiencing its effects. The anxiety, the disconnection, the sense that nothing quite lands, the boredom that hits even when life is objectively fine, the hunger for stimulation that's never quite satisfied. That's not a modern mystery. That's what it feels like to be alive, but cut off from the weight of your own finitude. And this changes everything. Because now the question isn't whether immortality would be good or bad. The question is, what does our obsession with it reveal about us? We want to live forever because we're afraid. And we're afraid because meaning feels fragile. And meaning feels fragile because we've spent decades building lives that float above the ground, untethered from death, from loss, from the thing that used to organize everything. We want more time because the time we have doesn't feel like enough. But the time we have doesn't feel like enough because we're not inside it. Not really. The ancient Greeks had two words for time. Chronos, the ticking clock, measured, linear, quantifiable. And kairos, the loaded moment, the moment dense with meaning, irreplaceable, alive. We've built an entire civilization around Chronos, and then we wonder why we feel nothing. And this is where the horror completes itself. If we actually achieved immortality, biological or otherwise, we wouldn't become gods. We wouldn't transcend. We'd become something closer to shadows, drifting through infinite Chronos, with no kairos left to find. Technically alive. Experiencing nothing. Remembered by no one, because there would be no one left to remember anything. Just consciousness, suspended, in a universe that is itself dying, that will one day go dark and cold and silent billions of years from now. And you'd still be there, not living, not suffering in any dramatic way. Just present. Without weight, without edges, without the thing that made you, you. Here's the final thought, and it's one you might not want to sit with. Every time you've ever felt genuinely alive, completely, irrevocably present in a moment, something was at stake. Someone could leave, something could end. You could lose it. And in the shadow of that possible loss, the moment became real, became yours, became something you actually touched. The terrifying truth of immortality isn't that it would feel like living forever. It's that it would feel like nothing at all. And the most disturbing thing, the thing I can't stop thinking about, is this. We already know what that feels like, and we keep asking for more of it.